Hello once again, and welcome back to the Side Quest Sages podcast. My name is Luke Tatum.
And I'm Corey Sins.
We are back with more Chrono Trigger. Thank you all to everyone who has been joining us for this kind of book club guided playthrough type of journey. If this is your first episode by some twist of fate, please go back to the first Chrono Trigger episode. We are playing the game piece by piece by piece and analyzing it as it comes. Corey has never played it before. I've played it 3 or 4 times in the past. And so we're just really doing deep dives on each little segment. And so where we are in the story, this is your last warning. Click off the video if you haven't played the game. Where we are in the story is we just obtained the damaged blade of the Masamune, and we are down back at the foot of the Denadoro Mountains where we obtained that. So game kind of is open, and you have to figure out what to do from here. And there's a couple of quick things that I want to make sure that I hit before we get pulled into some very awesome story beats. There's just some things, little setups and little fun stuff. So there's 2 things. First one, in Poor Village, the one that's to the south of the Denadoro Mountains and where Frog is and all that stuff, down to the south of that continent or island, at the item shop, there's a guy, and he's in like a big heavy suit of armor like the guys from Guardia Castle, and he says, with this armor, now I can go fight the Fiendlord. And then he collapses after a few seconds, presumably because it's heavy. And then a little girl comes in and says, I'm worried about my brother. He's going to hurt himself. It's really funny. Just little silly stuff like that. It doesn't affect anything. You could easily miss it. I just love the effusing charm that this game has. It's so fun to be in for me. This is a lot of the thing that I like about Xenoblade Chronicles and stuff, for example. It's just like these people have all their lives and they're going around doing all this stuff, and there's lots of silliness with the side quests in that game. So
it's such a serious time, and you've got so many different personalities vying for trying to find solutions, trying to do something. They don't know necessarily what to do. In that situation, he's putting on the armor. He's got his hero's badge, and immediately finds out that it may not be the tool he's looking for at this time.
Yeah, little historical factoid for anyone that is maybe not aware of these types of things. Knights like medieval era knights and stuff, after the invention of steel, you have very lightweight, deadly weapons that are swords, other types of blades, those sorts of things. But you also had the precursors to that, which is things like iron, bronze, and stuff like that. And so what they would actually do is they would train with a solid iron weapon in a lot of cases, which is very heavy. I mean, if you've ever picked up a cast iron skillet, they even sell like cast iron woks and things. And a cast iron wok is like freaking 50 pounds. I mean, it's very heavy. And so imagine you train with a solid iron sword. Well, then you go pick up your actual blade that's sharpened and steel, and it's very lightweight. And so this gives you the ability to have that kind of deadly force in an actual combat encounter because your muscles are trained on something, 8 times heavier or whatever. It's like, this is a breeze, no problem, right? So it is kind of funny. It's, again, I'm belaboring a very, very tiny point, but
but there's a lot to it.
Yeah. I mean, it is a thing. It is a thing that kind of has a historical parallel. Now, the other thing is actually much more significant. So we forgot or ran out of time to talk about Fiona's Villa. If you've played the game before, you know about this. But Fiona's Villa is this little structure kind of in the middle of this continent area, off by itself. And in 600 AD, Fiona tells you that her husband, Marco, hasn't returned from the war. She planted and tended the woods with her husband, the woods around this little villa. Any thoughts on that?
Yes, absolutely. And so it's it's in a spot that's in between those two villages on the southern continent, and there is still a bit of desert there. They have reclaimed some of that desert and tend to it. You know, they tend to the forest instead of conquering the desert. But in the 1000 AD, in it's gone. It's completely desert. It's something has happened, and it's definitely one of those things. I'm wondering if we can change that. I
Yeah.
certainly want to. I love trees. I love that forest. But
Yeah. You and I are big nature fans, I would say, and so uh, I'm not going to say anything, but that is
no, you
something
won't.
of significance that I'm glad that we are talking about now. Part of what we're trying to do is to set up for payoffs later, right? And to make sure that you, as the player, get a chance to enjoy and check out some of these things and get a deeper appreciation for the game. So that's the little side stuff left over from last time. The next story beat, if you're ready to move into this, Corey, is finding, it doesn't tell you what to do, but to figure out where to go, you eventually will end up in Tata's house, the boy who was on the mountain. Do you want to say anything there? I have the actual dialogue from it, if you would like me to read that.
All right, so let's do some of the dialogue for when he is kind of talking to his dad about his badge or explaining how he picked it up.
Oh, when he first finds it. Okay, let me dig that
Well,
up then.
it's when sorry, it's when you go in to talk to him
Sure.
and he's there with his dad and his dad overhears. I think
Yeah.
that's where I picked up.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I have Tata says, forgive me. Truth be told, I plucked this badge from the floor of the tavern. Some besotted froggish fellow dropped it as he stumbled out. I thought to sell it, see, but then everyone started calling me the hero when they saw it, and well, I didn't know what to do but go along with it. And then Tata's father, of course, is surprised by this news. Tata says, but it's too much for me, this hero business. I've had enough. Here, you can have the badge, to Chrono, to the party. So Tata's father says, oh, what was I thinking? I knew it'd turn out to be something like this. I ought have seen it sooner. So, they're
So
happy to
blinded.
enjoy the good fortune of having a famous child, but they, you know, kind of knew better in their heart of hearts or what have you. It's well, there's no way this can be
I'll
right.
overlook it. It's okay. I'll make excuses. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, hey, I just found this on the floor. It's cool. Uh, it wasn't really earned or anything.
And he meets with the
I'll probably do
king,
good.
and he goes to the nth degree with this. He's completely and fully embraced this idea that he's going to be the legendary hero, and just kind of bumbling around doing it. I'm going to go fight the Fiendlord, and crosses the bridge to go do battle. It's like, okay. Uh,
It in a way, I don't know if you're aware of who Michael Cera is, but he's kind of an awkward actor, and he there's a meme of him kind of in like a grocery store holding some things, and he's just like, uh, kind of surprised. And the whole joke of that meme is that he somehow stumbled his way into acting just because he was too awkward to like say anything. And so I kind of see that as Tata a little bit. He just was kind of caught up in it and just was like, well, I'm here, and then eventually, rubber had to meet the road, and he's like, okay, maybe this isn't for me. All the pomp and circumstance, love the parties, cool with that. Now we've got to actually fight. Probably not for me.
right, right. I mean, of course, we don't see exactly what happens with Tata up on the mountain range, but obviously he's running away from monsters that we were able to beat to get all the way to the top. So clearly not a someone with extreme combat prowess or anything like that. Probably the first time he picked up a sword is right when this whole thing started. So
Mhm.
you get the badge back, and as though it wasn't already heavy-handed, he's like, some froggish fellow dropped it. Right? Like, the only person you've ever seen or will
The
ever see
only
that is
one,
a frog.
yes. I've never described anybody in my life as, and I guess we're in a different place, but oh, that froggish man over there.
Right. So
But yes, so he's seen the Monster Man, and the Monster Man dropped the badge, which put me right directly to, is this the time? Do I need to go back to Frog? Because I left off immediately getting the Masamune and going running over there, running, not walking, just to see. But
yeah,
it seems like nope, that was not the piece I needed. I needed more than just the sword blade or hilt. Um, then we got the badge. That was another time I ran over there.
yeah, and I think we talked about this in the last episode, but like I even having played this before was like, okay, now what do I do? I mean, it is a little bit like of an awkward moment in the story. It's like, okay, what do I need to do? Like, obviously, I'm going to get Frog engaged, and he's going to join the party. He's already been in the party before,
Mhm.
Um, so what do I need to do? Well, so you just kind of keep running back through that little woods to check his house, and he's like still, distraught and lost in his past. And so we're going to start learning some of this here pretty soon. But you do go to Frog's place. That is the next thing to do. And, he's still got his imposter syndrome thing going on. But he sees the hero's badge. This means something to him, right? But he's even with that, he can't use the Masamune. All you have is a damaged blade. And he says he doesn't have the right to wield it. So he kind of walks away from what that position where he was standing, and then there's this bucket or something, and you discover that the hilt of the Masamune is in there. So now you have a damaged blade and you have the hilt. And Robo, somehow or another, is able to know and translate what it says on the hilt of the blade, and it says Melchior. How did you feel whenever you discovered this information, Corey?
I was like, okay, I know exactly where I need to go now, and I was excited that you'd kind of talked about it, and I'd seen him a little bit from Medina Village, but this had pointed out that there's something more to him actually there's no spoiler, but even during this playthrough we still don't have the full image of him. There's something mystical about him that transcends time, because he's talking about things that aren't, when we get there, when he starts sending us off on another quest, he's talking about things that don't exist in the world anymore. And he's like, well, you're not gonna get it anyway, so I'll just be here anyway. But
Yeah, yeah. Well, and his signature, his mark, is on a blade that's 400 years old at the time that he lives. Right? He's in
exactly.
1000 AD, and so it's like, what the heck? That doesn't make any sense. So you you leave Frog's place, and I don't know if you saw. Did you see the blue like round guy walking around in the woods whenever you were leaving? One of those spherical
Yeah,
characters.
in a couple places, but in that woods, but I didn't engage.
Okay, if you talk to him, you didn't miss anything. He says, "Oh, stop, you bad boy." That's what he says.
Huh. I
So
guess I was just running through, just dodging some enemies.
yeah,
I was really excited to go and get to Melchior.
yeah, and so that guy. I mean, so far you've seen two of those now. The blue round
Yeah,
guys. Those there was one in 2300 AD, and that dome that we couldn't really do anything in
yeah, we
past the abandoned sewers, and
can
then now
talk to
there's
him.
one here. So what does that mean? Who are those guys or whatever? I don't know. Then we get back to Melchior. He says, he immediately recognizes the Masamune or Masamune. I keep saying it.
Okay.
This is a sword. This is a sword name, Masamune, that has been in games. It's a term that has been used more than one time. It's not unique to Chrono Trigger, and I've said it wrong my whole life, so y'all just have to bear with me. But you ask why his name is engraved on it. He hesitates, and then a new song. This is the first time that you're hearing this new song come in, and I'm going to make myself kind of a note here. I inserted Robo's theme into the previous episode. I'm going to insert the theme that goes here. I'm not going to say the name of it, but the music that goes here, I'll insert that right here as well. right, so you learn after we kind of get lost in this beautiful music for a moment, he needs Dreamstone to reforge it. So remember, this game is the Dream Project. It's the Dream Team that made it. It's the Dreamstone. What does all this mean? And, but even Robo doesn't know what Dreamstone is. It's from long ago, longer than we could even imagine. That's what Melchior says. So we go to the only time period that is long ago, which is 65 million BC. Anything else to say before we do that?
Let me just yep, no record of it. Is it's primal, it's rare. Yeah. I think yeah, that's what kind of led me. Just actually a point on your character that you were talking about that you talked to. Is that the same character you can get an attack in 65 million BC and get some of the supplies from during the rainstorm?
It is. It is.
Okay,
And
then
so,
we can talk about that.
yeah, we're not quite to that guy yet, but
I
of
just want to
course,
make sure that was what I'm remembering
yeah,
correctly.
yeah. And so
Great.
that
Okay.
makes three. So these, whatever
In
they
three different eras. Yeah.
are in, yeah, three, I guess, in every time period, right? They're all over the place. So, but now we begin the chapter, The Rare Red Rock, which of course is the Dreamstone. So you fall into the Mystic Mountains, and then you already went to 65 million BC, and I was very hesitant to ask you about this. So it didn't play the cutscene and introduce a new character the first
No.
time you visited, right?
No, it did not. It her being the tribal leader, she wasn't present in the tent. When I first went there, I talked to some of the different people in the town, but it was really a different set of dialogue. It was just kind of cavemen, we, you know, just kind of things like that. I did go to a couple places, and it wasn't the right time at for me for level wise, especially. I was getting kind of crunched and definitely needed some more magic at that time. But once I came through the portal, dropped down the cliff, boom, Ayla was there to meet me and help me defeat all the little goblins, goobers, boogers, goblins. I don't know. It's just
I say
orcs,
imps. I don't know. I mean,
imps. That's good.
I forget.
Kobolds.
I think that's what they're called. Well, some of these guys are called imps, the blue imps, green imps, and stuff. You first meet those guys in 600 AD whenever you first go through the first portal, right? It's like the easiest enemy that you ever fight. Some of those little guys, but then yeah,
Hmm.
you also are now fighting dinosaurs and reptites, which are
Yep.
reptilian people, kind of. There's an interesting fan theory that maybe the English language is reptite language because the cavemen have simpler speak and the reptites speak more like complete English sentences, so like an in-universe
That's
fan
interesting.
theory, kind of fun. But uh, Ayla, I really like her character. She just says, "You strong? What name?" You know,
It's a strong name. Everything's strong about you, and then Marl gets a little kind of, maybe not necessarily jealous, but just there's a little bit of a, is there another woman here? Kind
uh
of like,
huh,
oh
uh
no,
huh.
it's
Well, and
we got to
and
fight.
Luca, if Luca's in your party instead of Marl, so again, I'm really glad that we're kind of
Oh
doing
yes,
this where we're
yeah.
using different characters. Um, there's this sort of moment where uh, Ayla will say, um, I don't think I wrote it down, but Ayla will look at Luca and say, "You strong too, me like you too," something like that. And she kind of like gets flustered and is like, "Oh no, I don't like that. I'm not into women," kind of a thing, like it's really funny. Um, so anyway, there's a reference here as we get in, like, so we go to the town, we interact with some people, you get some different, little basic caveman speak kind of stuff, but come to find out there's going to be a celebration. Ayla wants to celebrate, that you're a strong fighter and whatnot, kind of a welcome party of sorts. And there's other stuff to talk about here, but I just want to say, like, something I personally love at the Millennial Fair. There, at the very beginning of the game, there are people playing this exact same music and they're dressed up in exactly the same garb. It's exactly the same sprites of characters, And in the 65 million BC in this party, the musicians, a couple of them are like, this music's so good. I'm going to make sure that people listen to this for a long time, that kind of a thing. And so it's just funny. I mean, obviously no song is going to survive unchanged for millions and millions of years like that without recording media or anything. But it's a fun little tie back, right? Because when you're in the Millennial Fair at the beginning of the game, you're just like, oh, cool. It's like cultural global music or whatever. But like, no, it's 65 million years old. It's funny. So
The imbibing of the strange liquor, or the, what do they call it, the, oh do, 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 do.
oh, I didn't write it
Just
down.
liquid induces a peculiar behavior in humans, is what Robo said to me. And then we
Right.
we danced primally at the campfire. And I meant to talk about this before we started again, but again, my party is myself, Chrono, Marl, and Robo. When we go forward, when we get Ayla in there, it's going to be Ayla, Marl, and myself, Chrono.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. Cool.
Which I
Cool.
don't think you can change out Chrono at all, but
Yeah.
I've never tried.
I actually don't know if you can at this moment.
I
So
think it grays you out, so you have one option to change
okay.
out the,
That
like,
makes sense to me. Later on, there will be an option to swap every character slot. So if you, because you'll unlock triple text. We already talked about this, prior, but you'll have 3 party member special moves instead of just
excellent.
dual text. And so there are things where you can't have Chrono in your party if you want to use particular moves, right?
Okay.
Which is pretty awesome. So Ayla says she has the red rock and she challenges you to a drinking game, and so we're imbibing the special juice or what have you. And but everybody gets drunk and passes out. Oh, and there's also a character named Keno who is the only other one dressed similarly to Ayla, and he seems like a little jealous. Um, I thought I had it. Keno thinks it's strange. That's what he says. That you're getting a big party thrown for you. And so anyway, you pass out, you're drunk, you wake up the next morning, the red rock has been stolen, there's dinosaur footprints all over the place. It's a huge unexpected plot twist, And you've got to go follow the footprints. So the next chapter is called Footprints Follow. And at
Fine,
this at
right?
this point, this is the opportunity where I went up north and I grinded for a little while to get the feathers and
Yeah.
the other objects. There's like 4 kinds of objects that you can pick up to get different equipment and stuff like that, which is really good equipment at this point in the game.
Hmm.
So, did you do that?
I did. I didn't do it quite in the order. It was more, I was aware that we could get things, and I just grinded normally. Um, got most of the things until the end, and then I went back to get a couple things that I'd missed because um, I guess what I wasn't realizing is that you needed 3 of each,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
but then once I got that blue character in the rain, that set me up for all the things that I needed because it gave me 3 of each, among other things.
It's kind of a fun little like mechanic. I thought it's a pretty small area, so you can just loop around and wait for the rains, or you can leave and come back in and
Yeah.
reset everything, or however you want to do it. And it's not super hard. The modern era has gifted us with an auto battle where they'll just do normal attacks, and so I've just turned on that and I'm just running around. It took me like 10 whole minutes, right, to get everything that I needed, and so it was great. It was great. Now the armor, though, if you're playing along with us and whatnot, the armor is really useful because it reduces fire damage. So hint, hint, there might be fire damage attacking you at some point. You know how RPGs do these things. And so we're going to follow the footprints, which is down to the south. Uh, and also, the Reptites also stole your gate key. So
Yes.
you
I
can't
need that.
even leave. You cannot switch time periods. You don't want to stay in prehistory forever. Ayla joins your party, and you go down to the forest maze. So turns out Keno is there. So you interact with him. Keno says, um, Keno is jealous. He expresses that he's jealous about the whole situation, Chrono giving a party, and thinks that Ayla likes Chrono the best. And Ayla slaps him and says, Keno know why Ayla hit? Keno says, Ayla no like Keno. Ayla says, no, Ayla like Keno best. So Ayla no want Keno do bad thing. Bad thing, not good. That's some peak dialogue writing right there. And so
it it works in this context perfectly, and it's endearing.
yeah, yeah, I love it. And so you get, into the Reptite layer, which is the next stop. You get through this little kind of area, lots of cool enemies and stuff, lots of cool multi-level kind of level design. It can be confusing because everything is flat technically, but I think it's fun. I really like the area and the enemies and all that. Again, a lot of scripted encounters where things fly into the scene or pop up out of the ground or whatever. And so you get into the Reptite layer, you get far enough into the mountain, and
Which again was such a cool experience with how the terrain interacts, where you kind of weave and bob and go under things and climb up the vines, cross the logs, over the rivers and things like that. So it's just
fall through holes, right? The next thing we're going
and
to
fall
fall
through
through
holes.
holes.
Yes.
And so yeah, I'd love it, man. And so there is some loot in this Reptite layer. If you come in, that first hole is in different spots, just randomly, I think. And so if you reset the area a couple of times, you can fall into a couple of different spots and get potentially some extra loot that you wouldn't get otherwise. If you're trying to 100% the game, just be aware of that. You have to come back and enter the area a couple of times. But it's the very first room, so it's pretty easy to do. You end up in the same place no matter what. But you get to the end of this area, and then a voice says, "What in the world? Could those filthy apes have crafted something this advanced?" And it turns out that this is Azala, who is the leader of the Reptites. And he's kind of like this really short little T-Rex kind of,
Yeah.
he's kind of a weird character. Um, and so Azala says, and so the hairless apes arrive. Ah, and these new ones appear cut from a finer cloth than Ayla. Perfect. This should make things easier. Tell me, apes, what is the purpose of this device? And he's holding your gate key. That's what he's talking about. It doesn't matter what you say. He's going to summon his strongman, Nizbel, a
Spell.
giant guy. And of course, you defeat that. It's not terribly, terribly hard of a fight. He's just got a lot of health. And you get your gate key back and you part ways. And so then we are back off on our journey. Anything else here before we duck out of prehistory?
Um, I'm not. This is one of those situations again where he's obviously the villain, but he doesn't strike me as evil. He just it's more of a dominance thing. It's we are the rulers of this world, is what he says. And it's the
Yeah.
us reptiles or reptites, excuse me. I no, but um that makes me think, is dominance evil?
Mm.
Mm. That's definitely, or is it natural? Is it? It's definitely something that isn't going to be answered by this game, but is something to think about. I don't really. I actually I mentioned this in my notes as I was recording myself during gameplay. Was I why am I fighting them beyond that they're aggressive towards me? That's something that I want to answer at some point. The fact is, we have changed history again.
Yes.
He has seen the gate key, and so things are going. The gears are moving in his head, I think. With Azala. So we'll see what comes of that.
Well, and as far as dominance hierarchies and those sort of things, like just to touch on that, since you bring it up, I think that it is kind of natural. I think, in some sense, brains are wired to kind of have those things, this gets into Jordan Peterson, lobsters, serotonin, all that stuff, right?
Sure.
But I also think that human beings are in this kind of unique position to where we invent new ways to compete with one another. If you're not good at some particular thing, if you don't stack up in a dominance hierarchy that everybody else seems to be obsessing with, well, you just make your own thing. I'm going to go maybe be the best video game podcaster on the planet. And they're like, what's that? So, well, I'm going to
So
be really good at it. So then
you
you can
can
feel worse than me, right?
you can join that croc brain and go through and be aggressive, be dominant, or you can choose not to play that game in the first place
Right.
because we have, at least humans have that ability. We don't know if the reptites do.
Yeah. I
So
mean, there's a lot of personification and a lot of, giving of human qualities to other things. And so it's very hard to
to know,
definitively argue how this world works. But, um, I just realized while we were talking that I forgot to mention something. So Keno is actually the one that took your stuff. I forgot to say
yes,
that.
yep.
There were Reptite footprints and all that stuff, but Keno is actually the one that stole your gate key, and then the Reptites stole it from him. He was just jealous, and so that's why this whole thing happened. Not to say the Reptites wouldn't have stole it from you, but that's not what actually happened. So I almost forgot to say that. I just want to make sure I
It's the
do a
original
good
sin.
job.
Yeah,
Yes.
in a way,
Yeah.
but that there will be repercussions. I'm sure of that.
Yeah.
So
And so uh okay, so let's go back to what, 1000 AD? That's our next stop, I believe.
back to
And
Melchior.
yeah, so this is the next chapter. So we're on the last chapter we're going to cover for this episode. This is the Masamune. That's the name of the chapter. So we're going to get a resolution to this side plot with that. And so we Melchior, he can't believe you were able to find the Masamune and now the Dreamstone too. And he's like, who the heck are you people, basically? So he starts working on it. Did you have, I guess you didn't have Luca with you at this moment. So
Robo.
Robo starts helping to build the sword.
Yes.
Okay. Luca will start helping to build the sword if she's with you. Because I have Luca and Robo. That's my party, right? So she's the preferred person. And Robo will say, though, that he detects mental energy from the sword. It's kind of an interesting little comment. Maybe we
Hmm.
revisit later. And another kind of
Memory.
reiteration of a Melchiorism. He says, a sword can be used as a tool for ending lives or as one for saving them. It all depends on the one who wields it. Be sure you wield yours for the proper reason. He says this as you get the completed Masamune. So back to Frog.
That is one of the more wise things you could find in a game in the 90s.
Yeah.
And it is it's such a it's such a simple statement that it gets overlooked. And it is exactly what people need to do and have, people have their own agency and they can do everything that they want. Whether you do the right things or the wrong things are up to you. And tools are everywhere. They're plentiful. Sometimes they're a lever, sometimes they're a sharp pointing object, sometimes they heal people.
Yeah.
Those are the things that we have to find. And Melchior is saying, I don't know what that is for you. You know what that is. I hope you find the right one that makes you the best you.
Yeah.
Is what I feel that's what it's saying. The sword isn't power, it's an inheritance. The sword has memory. The sword knows things, and you can add to its legacy now for better or worse.
Yeah. And, he's the one that forged the original, right? Because his name is on it. So he knows about the spirits, the brothers
Mhm.
that inhabit this sword. I mean, how do you make a sword like that? Like, there's so many mysteries, plots within plots, to be a Dune quote for a second. There's a lot going on here just with this one sword. And presumably this is not the end goal of the whole game because we have a world ending uh, catastrophe that isn't even from this timeline, or that occurs in a later timeline that we're trying to fix. And none of this is really. We're going to go stop Magus because he's the one that seems to have summoned Lavos, but it's like the game's not over. It's not about to be over. I think you and I both feel that. At this point in the game, it's like there's still plenty left to happen. There's plenty of unresolved threads elsewhere. So okay, we reforge the sword. We go back to 600 AD. We finally get to go interact with Frog and get him in gear. So when he sees the Masamune, we flash back. We get our first flashback to Frog's past. So let me let you take a first stab at this. I have, clips from the script. I have a lot of stuff that I can say to just guide us through it. But what were your impressions and thoughts on this?
The throwbacks are really fun.
Yeah.
Apologize that some of them are going to be kind of jumbled because we do revisit them. I think twice.
Mm-hmm.
There's one cutscene and then there's another one. So you get a little piece of it, but you start with we find out that Cyrus is a knight who is not Frog.
Yeah.
We find that Frog is actually his knight errant, his friend, his, squire, you
Mm-hmm.
name it,
Mm-hmm.
named Glenn. And he seems to be a huge supporter of his friend Cyrus, and but is not willing to join the Knight Corps, the knighthood with him. He's still very uh I'm gonna probably just come out and say that this is really personal for me. The frog is definitely an archetype that I hold inside myself of not feeling worthy, not feeling that I'm up for that I should, but I know that I have to at some point, and it's kind of there's a lot of question marks to that, but um, so I definitely feel that this is speaking to me personally. A little bit of shame of things in the past that's not necessarily something that I have now, but I can see how that would affect him and put him in that hole in the ground and not wanting to come out.
Yeah. I
And
mean, it's so.
many people could, I want to stay in bed all day. I want to forget all my, mistakes. I want to forget all my responsibilities. So it's a very human thing to have, even though he's a frog.
Well, it's literal and figurative. We've talked about this before, right? But the going into the earth, right? He lives in a hole in the ground. It's not that he lives in a tree, right? He's not a tree frog, or that's not where he lives.
Yeah.
It's under the earth. He's digging into kind of this state that he's in. He's decided to reside in this subterranean space, which is very symbolic. And it's even a hidden subterranean space. It's an obscured location where maybe the troubles of his life will pass on without his confrontation, because he's also struggling with ideas of pacifism, right? He's being beaten up by these other kids, or harassed by these other kids, and doesn't want to do anything to stick up for himself. And he doesn't even want to do anything, like you said, with the knights and stuff. He joins the Knight Corps eventually, but he doesn't want to fight, right? He struggles with this. And so,
Cyrus says that he's even better at the sword than he is, but
right.
despite that, Cyrus goes on, joins in the knighthood, whereas Glenn has the skills and the ability to do it, but chooses not to at this
Yeah.
time.
And that's kind of like an anime trope, and in some sense it's a Western and an Eastern trope, but it's not overly tropey when it's done here. We've got enough kind of fresh elements to it. I think this is a very compelling and very fun story. And so, the game definitely, as we talked about last time, it leads you on into thinking that Frog is Cyrus, but it's actually a much more complex tale than that. And we talked about frog means to change, to return, the Japanese word that's used, that keru word. And so, symbolizing this transformation, which we're also going to learn about here. So we see a caped figure in one of these flashbacks facing away, and we have a caped figure. We have Ozzy, who we've encountered ourselves, and then we have Cyrus and Glenn. And they're going to initially they're questing off to fight the Frog King and to get the hero's badge. So that's how we get the hero's badge back.
Yes.
That's how Cyrus has it, and he is the hero. Cyrus is the hero, and he also has the Masamune. So he can defeat the Fiendlord, right? But we have this scene that plays out, and this is where the Masamune is broken. Here on the very mountain in the Dinodoro Mountains where you find the blade later, Glenn loses hope once the sword is broken. Cyrus fights so Glenn can escape, but we learn that the one in the back, the caped figure, is Magus. It might not have immediately been obvious, but he turns around and he speaks. And Cyrus begs Glenn to take care of Queen Lean. So that explains his, undying devotion to the queen to some degree. And then the body of Cyrus burns away. It's kind of like a magical fire kind of thing. And Magus says, "What's the matter? Are you not going to try your luck?" Ozzy makes fun of him, laughs at him. "Like a scared little frog with no pond to jump into. How about it, Lord Magus? Can't you give him a more fitting form?" And so Magus says, "Very well, no act of defiance goes unpunished," and transforms him into a frog. So,
and then he falls and falls.
Yeah, again, very symbolic, right? He's on a high place there. He is at a place where he could transcend his hesitancy, where he could, become a better person. There's a line in a song that I love, when you're on top of the world, every path leads down, right? And so he falls all the way to the bottom, right? Probably severely injured, and now he's a frog. And he's sitting there in the water. We learned this in a different flashback, but that's where the hero medal is going to wash up. The hero's badge washes up, and that's why things end up the way that they do. He takes that and departs. But let me speak quickly on Magus. The Japanese version of Magus's name is Mao, or Mao. I'm not sure how you pronounce it in the Japanese, but Mao. And it means demon king. So the name Magus, the English version, comes from the Latin word wizard or mage, magi. You've seen terms like this, linking him to the three wise men in biblical tradition, the Christian tradition, right? The magi, the wise men that visit the newborn Christ and bestow gifts. His original Japanese, or excuse me, Magus is a dual origin word, so it could be tied to the Latin, it could be tied to the Japanese. But in the Japanese version of Chrono Trigger, sorry to be confusing, his name is Jiaki or Jaki, which sounds like evil intent in Japanese. So again, a similar thing, but a slightly different word. So it's meant to reinforce his dark and wicked nature. And we discovered that this is 10 years since Frog became Frog. And something else that I want to point out here, I think this is maybe the right time to do this. A lot of characters have more than one name, right? A lot of characters. So Robo is R66Y, but we call him Robo. Marl is Princess Nadia, but she's decided to live as a common person, not as royalty. This is her other chosen name. She's it's the duality of these characters. This is my responsibility. This is my programming. This is who I was intended to be. This is who I am, right? Who I'm becoming, perhaps. And so Glenn, Frog, he'll stay Frog the rest of the game. He's going to be Frog as your party member. But, that's, again, we have another dual named character. So something to think about. We're going to go Off to the cave to the east and get more flashbacks. But what else? What else do you want to say here?
It's I think this is just a super awesome story of not necessarily of him becoming the hero, but him becoming himself, finding himself. You know, he hero is a title that can be you can get, you know, but being yourself is much more rare, I feel.
Yeah, this is a that's a really, really, really good point. I'm really glad that you said that because he is in some sense stepping into this like legendary tale and becoming, the hero, but it's only because he's able to sort out his own psyche, right? That he's able to do that at all.
Be
It's
effective
right. You
even.
know, you give him all the tools, you dress him up in the regalia of a hero, and it could be just like Tata, right?
Yeah.
We've already seen the result of that without the will, without the determination, without the training, these kind of things, without the clear mind, you can't stand against, a mighty evil fiendlord or whatever. And so you must sort these things out internally, which is why we spend so much time in flashbacks. We really haven't gotten flashbacks in this game prior to this. These are it's pretty heavy handed. We got a lot of past to catch up on with Frog and Glenn. And so this next flashback when you approach the sheer rock wall magic cave,
Magic Cave.
Glenn was bullied as a boy. This is when we learn about that. Cyrus tells him, "You're too soft, Glenn." He's trying to encourage him to kind of step into this more adult role. And this we also see the scene where he decides to join the knighthood, and that's where he talks about being a better swordsman than Cyrus. But Glenn says in that flashback, he says, "I haven't the nerve it takes to be a knight. In a real battle, the fear would take me." And of course, again, so we see all the results of that. And then we get a sick cutscene where, and this is in
Oh,
our little outro, right? The splitting of the mountain. I kind of played with that, and so spoilers. But what did you think?
I it was so awesome. And in fact, I was hitting F12 a million times to like take screenshots. And I was going through my screenshots this morning and they were all black. And I was because it wouldn't take that. I'd have to use the the actual onboard computer screenshotting system. But so I missed them, but I experienced them, and that was, I guess that's what matters. And boy, that the animation on that, the Masamune, the um Frog taking the lead on that, and then with Chrono kind of in the back, just being like, "Yeah, I'm here to support you, man."
Yeah, yeah. It's so cool. And this is, again, it's very symbolic, right? And so this is a rending in two of an obviously impassable thing. It's to say it doesn't matter whether something appears to be achievable or not. This is very Gurren Lagann, favorite anime of all time. It's very like, your will can beat out even obvious physical obstacles, right? And so he rends into the mountain. The mountain splits apart, and we have this path to now go and confront the great evil. Um, Super awesome. Now, the reason it plays the cutscene two times is because in the PlayStation version of the game, and this happened with Ayla and her cutscene fighting the Reptites, it kind of happens twice. The Super Nintendo version, the original version, didn't have anime cutscenes. And so they added them later in the PlayStation version, and then the DS and PC releases have kind of fused all that together so you get both. And it's kind of weird to watch the exact same thing happen twice in some of these moments, but I'm all for it. Like I have absolutely no qualms about that. I think it's awesome, and I love both versions like a lot. So um, Magic Cave is pretty short. When you first get in there, though, Frog is going to say something about his own use of magic. So, did you get that
Boom.
message? Did you go
Yes,
back and get his magic?
immediately
Okay.
went to Specchio, and I was actually like, that was fun. I got water power for Frog, which makes sense. This time I was able to beat him because I
Oh,
kind of have the, the healing and attacking thing going on pretty down pat now. Which actually I want to talk about a little bit, just a bit,
okay.
prior to this, about dinosaurs. Uh, the After I beat him, I got a ton of equipment and stuff extra. I didn't even I don't even remember what it was, but it felt awesome. It was more techs. I got more fighting
Yeah.
techs.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was that was and I was like, I am so glad because he's like, hey, you want to fight? You want to try it out? I'm like, okay. I was like,
There's
if I die, it's low risk.
right.
There's
Right.
nothing.
There's a
Only
save and a
gain.
heal right there. I mean,
Boom, boom,
you
boom.
might as well fight him.
Yep. So did that, was awesome. The I wanted to talk about the fighting. So the dinosaurs were really interesting. There's I think it was specifically the boss, Nisbel, needed to be hit with lightning, then you could attack him with other things and reduces it was some boss or mini boss was like that, and it was definitely it all the fighting evolves. It changes just slightly for certain bosses, different resistances and whether or not you have to attack physical or but now it's like there are orders of how to attack them now in certain ways, and so that's something that I'm aware of going forward.
I just, again, I'm going to harp on this probably way too much, but like, I just love that it is sort of introduced and then you'll hear like a rumor in town, like, this magic ability can do this, or, you'll just read something or hear something or have some little teeny hint. I mean, even at the Dragon Tank at the very beginning, right, with the manual
Hmm.
explaining that, oh, as long as nobody uses swords and guns, the only weapons you have, then we should be fine, right? Uh, This very gentle, like, hey, pay attention. You're probably going to get in a situation where you might need lightning to attack dinosaurs, you know? Store that away. It harkens back to the era of maybe I should have a notebook. Maybe I should write this down. Maybe like in the modern area, I just hit the screenshot key whenever I get a little hint or something, and I go open my screenshots folder. But that's a replacement for this notebook taking
Mm.
notes. Oh, that's so cool. I'm so glad I know this information. In the next gameplay segment, the next episode, then and I really hope we can get through everything that I have planned for the next episode in one episode. It's not too much. It's not too much, I don't think. But there's a little puzzle in a room where you have to like find these elements in a room. And you could totally skip that, but you definitely should not skip that. You should definitely do the little thing, you know. But it doesn't make you. It just sort of like tells you, hey, it'll be easier. You could probably beat Nisbel just by getting a higher level and using physical attacks or something, right? Eventually, but you shouldn't do that. You should lean into the mechanics, right? We have both options. So,
Speaking of
um,
notes, a couple of ideas that I wrote down. So this was we have 1000 AD. We have like the Medina village. So they've got kind of an inherited hatred.
yeah,
Nothing actual substantial, but it's racism for them. Um, in the 65 million BC, we had evolutionary dominance. We kind of spoke about that. That wasn't again not necessarily evil. It's two factions fighting each other for control over resources, land, whatever it is.
yep,
600 AD, we had the failed heroism of Tata, but we had um, survivor's guilt for Glenn, and so we had to find a synthesis of that. So it's just kind of some really good themes going on, and each of the different eras have their own thing going on. It's it's so complex,
yeah, but it's
and
also
I
so
wasn't
simple.
anticipating that. Right. So 65 million years BC, you had the instinct survival. 600 AD is knights and legend. In modern time is commerce and decay, and then you get to the future, and it's just complete decay and just systems left over that are somehow maintained by the robots.
Yeah, it's got that Skynet Terminator kind of vibe, a
Yeah.
little bit, but it's also a fun Akira Toriyama version of that. It's very like This is how Dragon Quest is, by the way, which Akira Toriyama also did all the art for all the monsters and Dragon Quest and stuff. And so you're very involved in those projects. Um, and I love them. They have the dumbest puns in the world. Like, uh, I was just playing the Dragon Quest 7 demo. I think it's 7 that they've just put out a demo of a remastered version of that. And there's this guy in a town, and he says, "We could learn a lot from trees, wouldn't you say?" And it's like that kind of stuff. It's everywhere, and so it's like there's really deep, complex stuff in those games, but it's silly and fun, and you can just enjoy the game. It doesn't have to bog you down. Doesn't have to be Fallout 1 or whatever. It's like so bleak. Um, so I love that.
That's one of my next games to play.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
think.
as always, call to leave us a comment. Let us know what you'd like to see next, and you can vote over on the Patreon. We'll talk about that in a second. So we're almost to the end of this playthrough. So
Yeah.
you get through
Yeah.
the magic cave, and a bat follows you through the cave.
Yeah, I did notice that. I nothing came of it, but I noticed the bat was just kind of batting around.
Just kind of doing its little thing, Um,
Dracula.
and maybe
Cool.
So let's see. Yeah, go back to the end of time, and then you come out of the cave. It's really a pretty short thing. It's not very
Yeah.
long at all. And then you come out, and you are at the Fiendlord's Keep.
Boom.
So huge, huge black zone of the forest, and it's a massive compared to other stuff we've seen. Even the domes in the future and stuff. It's massively huge. Pitch black forest with a huge castle in it. And so that is, again, we've had to split it into 2 episodes, but that is where we intended to get to last time. But hey, there's just so much meat here to get into, and so I'm having a great time. I'm glad we're doing it this way. Anything else to say about this playthrough before I give where we're going next and all that stuff?
One thing that we didn't talk about, and you mentioned putting the music in where Melchior is, and
I like that you say Melchior. I say Melchior.
Melchior, yeah, Melchior. I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, we will just keep going with that.
Yep.
Going into that was kind of a mystical experience when he starts putting the when we first talk to him, and then when we come back with all the components, and it's like almost like Tibetan like percussion going on. It's definitely mystical and almost Buddhist a little bit. So there's definitely some spiritual framing going on for that sword. And we didn't talk much about music that time, but that was definitely one of the songs, and I'm glad you independently were talking about putting that in there too.
It's one of the most famous tracks from Chrono Trigger, and that is saying something because this is one of the best, most well-regarded soundtracks in all video games ever. And so, Mitsuda, man, like he's just such a master. But yeah, we're gonna learn more about that song, kind of where that song is placed, other than just being a song that plays when you look at this sword. We're gonna learn more about that. We're going to learn a whole heck of a lot. We have a lot of lore stuff next time. So what we're going to do is do the Fiendlord's Keep. I mean, obviously, it's not a shocker. We got stuff to talk about there. The Fiendlord's Keep is pretty long, and then we're going to have a bunch of story beats. The next area after the keep, please, 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 if you are watching and playing along with us, thoroughly explore this next area that we go to. And then you will after the keep. Yeah. So after the fight with after the Fiendlord's Keep, then there'll be a totally new area. Thoroughly explore that. We are going to get the power to unlock the mysterious chests and doors. The bloop 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 bloop. Okay.
Exciting.
I will not tell you what that is, but you'll get the ability in some way to do that. And you will be able to go around. Yeah, right. Bleep, 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 boop. You're going to travel around a different time period. So you get the ability to unlock those doors, and you can go all over the place. You're going to be able to, use the end of time to go around. So if you want to open all the chests and stuff like that, go for it. But there's one in particular that you're going to be led to go to, and that's where we're going to stop. So the game is going to guide you to open a door in 2300 AD that we've already seen before. And it's going to give you access to a particular machine. You are going to know what I'm talking about when you get there. It's awesome. And just save there. So get the machine and then save. Or interact with the machine or whatever. Whatever it is that happens.
Got it.
So
exciting.
It's going to be so good. Hopefully that's not too ambitious. If it is, it is. Whatever. You know how these things go. But I don't want to ever sacrifice depth of the conversation for, time on something like this. This is going to give us a better sense of how long it would take to do some of these truly ambitious games in the future as well. So a couple of housekeeping things. We do have a Patreon page now, patreon.com/sidequestsages. We're going to do slightly early access as soon as I get stuff in there. Like my editor, Nick, is going to do the cut of the show, put the intro and outro in, all that good stuff. And then I'll go in and do things like add a music clip or any other particular little special thing that we need to do. And so as soon as I get that done, it'll be on Patreon, ad-free, whether you have YouTube Premium or whatever. It doesn't matter if you're a Patreon member. And then it'll go on YouTube at the regular time on a Tuesday. So if you want to check that out, we're going to have all kinds of cool stuff over there on the Patreon. So we appreciate it if you join the community. Also check us out on the Facebook group, the Side Quest Sages Gaming Lyceum. It's still so fun to say. And, just hang out with us over there too. We'll post lots of dumb memes, because
I'll be memeing by the Stoa. Never mind.
All okay. Right. I think that's all I got. You got anything else, Corey?
Excellent. I love this. I'm super excited. Like Luke had mentioned, talk about games that you want us to play. We've got a list going on right now of probably 40 or so games. We're gonna start parsing that. We'll have some polls and all sorts of things coming. So
yes,
thanks again for staying with us through this. And I think this is my fourth playthrough the game. I think this is our 5th or 6th episode.
This will be
Chrono
episode
Trigger.
6. Yeah. And so that's awesome. I mean, we might get 12 or 13 episodes out of this game, which is awesome. So love it. Thanks, everybody. Until next time, I don't have any cool outro picks for this show, but we love you. We'll talk to you soon.